You're right.
Yep. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the second night of the 2020 Otter Tail County Community Debates. I'm R.C. Drews and I welcome you to this live broadcast from the Fergus Falls City Hall. Thank you for sharing your evening with us, and we hope you'll leave tonight informed on your candidates for local office so that you can vote with confidence in November. Tonight's event is brought to you by the Fergus Falls Daily Journal, Layton Broadcasting Company, and Peg Access Television of Fergus Falls. On behalf of our sponsors, a reminder that you can subscribe to the Daily Journal digital and print editions by visiting their website at www.fergusfallsjournal.com or by stopping into their new office within the historic Carnegie Building at 125 North Union. And check out their app, available in the Google Play Store and the iOS App Store. You can catch this and our upcoming event on Layton Broadcasting's AM 1250 KBRF, but make sure to check out their sister stations, Real Rock, Z103.3 FM, 96.5 FM, KJ Country, and Channel 977 FM. And of course, catch this and more televised coverage of local news on local channels 8 and 18 from Peg Access. A reminder that this will be the second of 3 debates, with our final event on Thursday, October 8th, next week. Like tonight, that debate for the offices of Otter Tail County Commissioner in Districts 1, 3, and 5 will begin at 7 o'clock. Tonight's event is the big one for Fergus Falls, beginning with Ward 2 City Council candidates Tom Rufer, the incumbent, and write-in challenger Mark Layton. Then at approximately 30 minutes, Ward 3 City Council candidates Brent Thompson, incumbent, Victoria McWayne Creek, and write-in candidate Al Krameyer will take the stage. Finally, at approximately 8:15, don't miss the debate for Fergus Falls Mayor, featuring incumbent Ben Shire, challenger John Strauch, and write-in candidate Mike Mortensen. It's all coming up. With the preamble out of the way, let's get to the debate. The questions for tonight's debate have been written by myself and have not been shared with anyone to include any candidate, campaign, or media partner. As such, these questions are my own and do not necessarily represent the views or opinions of our media sponsors or their affiliates. Candidates, we'll ask that you take your seats now. Mr. Layton and Mr. Rufer, you'll be up first. Candidates, as we begin, you'll be given 3 minutes for opening statements before we move to the debate questions. During the questioning phase, responses will be limited to 2 minutes per speaker, unless otherwise specified. When you see our official in the front row waving a yellow flag, you have 1 minute remaining. A red flag means only 10 seconds remain. And should you exceed the maximum time limit, our official will hold up a white flag, and it will be my responsibility to interrupt at that time. We ask that you be mindful of the time limits out of courtesy to your fellow candidates and to the audience. Also a note, while any opposing candidate is speaking, you have the opportunity to move for a rebuttal. In that case, we will allow 30 seconds for rebuttal and afford one final response from the original speaker if they choose before moving on. With that said, Mr. Layton, you have the floor and 3 minutes for your introduction, sir.
Good evening. My name is Mark Layton. Thank you for this opportunity. I was born in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. My earliest childhood dream was to become a scuba diver. I first became certified in 1969 and assisted various police departments at that time. I graduated from high school in '71. I attended college at Moorhead State, studied economics and accounting. During college, I became a partner at Northwest Divers. I continued my business management and scuba career. I became a certified instructor in all aspects of dive rescue. As a dive rescue specialist, we train many law enforcement agencies and fire departments, including in Untitled County. In addition, we organize international scuba tours from Canada to the South Pacific and all points in between. These early dreams and experiences led me to my career path. As a bank president and chairman, my responsibilities included preparing all budgets to the board and regulators. I expanded my career as a certified financial planner and investment advisor. I was proud to assist many businesses and farmers with their management, budgets, and borrowing capacity needs. I'm also an independent insurance agent licensed in property, casualty, life, and health, and have achieved the degree of certified insurance counselor. Based on my business background, I've sat on many boards, ranging from housing, health services, and economic development. As a community member, I've been involved with the Lions Club, Boy Scouts, and continue to support law enforcement and fire departments. Currently, my business interests include an independent insurance agency, ATM placement company, a certified firearms instructor, and various C-stores, car washes, restaurants, and a bakery. My years of diverse experience, business and risk management, coupled with your Ward 2 write-in vote, can bring back fiscal responsibility to the city of Fergus Falls. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Layton. Mr. Roofer, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you to RC and for our media partners for providing our citizens to get the insight into how we are going to approach this campaign. About me, I was born in Fergus Falls, Lake Region Healthcare. I've lived here for almost all of my life, but I do feel that it's valuable that I've lived outside of the area for just long enough so that I was able to gain some perspective, which has helped me in my dealings on the City Council. My wife and I both work here in Fergus Falls full-time, and we have 3 kids in our fabulous public school system. 13, 11, and 9. It's hard to keep up because it changes every year. Oh, and speaking of, I should introduce my +1. I've got my 13-year-old daughter, Sophia, here as my debate inspiration. I am also a coach. I coach my kids. I help coach my kids' hockey teams. I've coached football. I've coached baseball. And I have a great time doing it, and it's developed some great connections over the years. I serve on a committee at church. I'm an indoor cycling instructor at the YMCA, and I also jump on my bike to ride outside whenever I can. I'm a longtime proud member and past president of the Fergus Falls Noon Kiwanis Club, and I've been on several nonprofit boards in the city and served them well, and we've had great results on those boards. I'm also a member of the City Council Legislative Committee, and that's given me the opportunity to spend many productive days at the state capitol in St. Paul working with and negotiating with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. I've also had the opportunity to represent Fergus Falls by testifying before both the House and the Senate Tax and Bonding Committees. I also serve on the Fergus Falls Port Authority, which provides valuable economic development tools to our community. Along with many other community members, I'm a proud alumni of the Blandon Community Leadership Program, where we learned skills that have been a key to my success as a council member. Why vote for me? It's because I bring a positive message. We've done good things and we've gotten results. There's no reason to stop now. We're going to keep Fergus Falls heading for a bright future. Instead of finding a way to say no, we're going to keep finding responsible solutions to meet our goals. You're going to hear me use the words we and us a lot. This isn't just about me. One council member doesn't come in and change everything. I'm just part of a great team of the mayor, the council, the city staff, the Port Authority, Greater Fergus Falls, and all of our citizens. My family's happy here. This is our home. So my plan is to offer the current and future residents of Fergus Falls and generations to come the best possible city in which to live, work, and raise a family.
Thank you, Mr. Roofer. Thank you, candidates. So we will rotate after each question. So our first question will begin with Mr. Roofer. This is the first question of a 2-hour event, so let's start with something simple. Fergus Falls is divided into 4 wards, and wards 1 and 4 house the city's downtown businesses. Ward 3, meanwhile, features our industrial park and large businesses like Fleet Farm, Aldi's, and Nelson Auto. As candidates for Ward 2, you represent important businesses certainly, but also a high percentage of residential zones, many of which are outside the core residential grid of Fergus Falls. With that in mind, what role do you believe the city should play in making Fergus Falls a better place to live, and how would you work to that end? Mr. Roofer, we ask you first.
Yeah, how do we go about making Fergus Falls a better place to live? We already have a plan in the works. Unfortunately, just like many things, the COVID pandemic put things at the state legislature on hold. But we worked together as a council, along with public input, in order to put together a great sales tax proposal. As I stated earlier, we spent many hours in discussions with our lawmakers in order to find out exactly what we needed to do to get this passed. We were all set and ready to go with it. Pandemic happened, but that sales tax proposal is going to bring amenities to our cities, to our city, including an outdoor aquatic center, which I haven't done all my door knocking yet this year, but when I knocked in 2016, that was one of the top things that I heard the young families of Fergus Falls tell me that they wanted. We also have a plan to revitalize the D Lagoon recreational area. We're going to be expanding the campground, updating it, adding spots, making it more modern, increasing lighting and expanding that capacity so that we can host more and bigger sports tournaments. All of that with the aim of giving our residents things to do and things to improve their quality of life, but also attracting people to our city to come here and spend their dollars. And studies show that when people come and visit, those people are more likely to come and make this their home. So between that and continuing our development of economic opportunities, that's how we're going to make Fergus, it's going to continue to be the best place to live.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Layton, your response.
I believe the primary function of a city is to provide public utilities: water, sewer, garbage, streets, police, and fire services. Fergus Falls has also successfully expanded those services to include the liquor store, golf course, and airport. Fergus Falls has been blessed as it's located in Otter Tail County with heavy lakes and on the main corridor, I-94. These are all excellent strengths our predecessors have accomplished and built on. Now it's time to re-examine how those assets can be showcased and fully utilized. I believe if we control if we can control city spending and bring down the cost to real estate taxes, fees, easy money will come to Fergus Falls. Smart money, private money, will come where it's profitable. So I think we need to build on those basic levels.
Thank you, sir. Of course, as a council member, you represent your ward as you represent the city itself. And one local landmark unique to Ward 2, but impacting the entire population, is Lake Alice. The lake is at the center of local mythology as it is at the center of our town. We could argue the lake has always had a problem with pollution ever since the 1919 tornado dumped half the town into the water. But today, chemical runoff, organic waste, and more traditional contaminants have compromised the beauty of Lake Alice. What do you think could be done to improve this natural resource? And Mr. Layton, we'll ask you first.
Well, as a scuba diver, Lake Alice brings many challenges. Obviously, it's closed. I believe it's a closed water. I think it needs to be dredged. It could be, if you will, sealed. Sidewalks, road could be paved and curbed. Unfortunately, the wildlife has ruined all the trees. So, there's a great deal of work that needs to be done there. As an outsider coming in, I understand it's been a discussion for many years, and nothing really has been done, other than it gets to be a splash in the paper for a while, and there's where it sits. It's a difficult problem.
Certainly. Mr. Roofer?
Well, according to the studies that we've done, and the water quality experts that we've talked to, it would be prohibitively expensive to clean the water up to the point of, being able to swim. In its current state, it's likely usable for boating and such things, but we do need to focus on the area, not necessarily the water, but the area right around it. I was very, very pleased to see that our project of resurfacing the other half of Lake Alice that really needed it is now, if not completely finished, just about. As an avid cyclist, I miss having the Lake Alice 100 around that lake. And I look forward to many, many years of that to come now. I heard from residents on a regular basis, when is this going to get done? COVID threw us for a loop this construction season, but we got it done. So the surface of the road is now what we would expect to deliver to our citizens. One idea that I have for using Lake Alice is, it was my dream this winter to host a pond hockey tournament on Lake Alice. Those tournaments bring people in from many states away. And how cool would that be to have a tournament like that right smack dab in the middle of our city of Fergus Falls? And let's kind of try to keep this between us and Fergus Falls, but I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. But our plan is also to bring the Fox Sports North and Minnesota Wild Hockey Day in Minnesota to Fergus Falls. But again, we don't want anybody to steal our idea. So, but we've got, like I said, we've got plans. They're already in the works. They're already moving forward, and we're going to get them done.
Thank you, sir. According to the U.S. Small Business Administration, small businesses make up over 99% of the country's employer firms and 64% of net new private sector jobs. At the end of 2019, Greater Fergus Falls and the local Chamber of Commerce announced 110 new businesses in Fergus Falls between 2014 and 2019, most of them small businesses, including retail sales, consultancies, and smaller manufacturing operations. There's no question small businesses are important to the city's health. But what can the city do for small businesses? Mr. Roofer, we'll ask you first.
Well, one thing that we have done, and of course we'll continue to do, is that since my term started, and I got to make sure I have my numbers correct, our council has provided $1.7 million of low-interest loans to spur local business development, and I'm pleased to say that that program has a zero default rate. So that right there is an example of the role of the government stepping in to provide that funding to spur the development. With our power, we're able to offer a very competitive interest rate to those businesses, and I'm very, very happy that we've done so. I mean, I maintain regular contact with our small businesses. You've mentioned Greater Fergus Falls. Our mayor had the vision to create Greater Fergus Falls, and I was happy to support it as a council member. I love working with Greater Fergus Falls. The makeup of their board is just absolutely second to none. The executive director does a fabulous job. They definitely have their finger on the pulse of the Fergus Falls business community. They deliver us a huge return on investment. If you look at the investment that the city makes in that organization versus the benefits that we get from it, it's amazing. So again, part of the team. It's our council, Greater Fergus Falls, Port Authority, city staff, and our businesses, and open communication. And I tell people, they used to say that Fergus Falls wasn't business friendly. I don't think that's the case. And if anybody feels that way, please call me. My contact information is on the city website. I want to hear about it so we can fix it. Because the city staff that we have, if we go to them and say, hey, you know what, this is a concern, this is a speed bump, it's going to get fixed.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Layton.
Again, my golden rule to private money is it will be invested where it's profitable. I am a businessman. The city must reduce its spending and reduce the real estate taxes. The tax levy in Fergus Falls in 2012 was $4 million. It's projected to go to $6,700,000 in 2021. These spendings can't continue. General expense has gone from $9,800,000 in 2013 to $14 million in 2021. A 9-year increase of $4,300,000, and in the last 4 years, 50% of that was spent, $2,400,000. Capital expenditures. Capital expenditures in Fergus Falls typically ranged at the $6 million level on a 5-year budget based on the city's budget, and again, these are proposed, goes to $25 million. Fergus Falls cannot afford this.
Thank you, sir.
Can I offer a rebuttal?
Certainly.
I am not a finance expert, nor do I claim to be, but thankfully we have Bill Sunmore and our excellent city finance staff that are financial experts. When Bill Sunmore tells me that we don't waste money and that we spend responsibly, I believe him. I'm not qualified to question his judgment. So, we're not raising the levy next year. So.
Okay. Mr. Layton, any response?
Well, those were the numbers I saw in the budget proposed in 20 and 21.
Okay. Thank you. If you can believe it already, we're on to our final questions, and our final questions are a little different. The next questions will be for each candidate individually, and will focus on their campaign in particular. I want to emphasize the intention of these questions is for the candidates to demonstrate their strengths despite challenges. The time limits will remain the same, though there will be no option for rebuttal, and we will reset the order of questioning. So Mr. Layton will begin with you. Mr. Layton, your name is associated with a number of businesses, as you indicated at your opening statements, to include the Rotsay Truck Stop, an insurance agency with offices in Benson. With so many interests across so many areas, how will you find the time to lead and work for Fergus Falls?
All my companies have extremely strong managers. Fortunately, I'm not needed there every day. I sit in the office, I analyze the profit and loss monthly on every company. I direct from 30,000 feet which direction we're going to go. If it's an acquisition of an insurance agency, next year our goal is to totally remodel the gas and diesel island. So in the back office, that's what I do. I have adequate time to assist in this city. That was one of the questions I had to some of the council members, how much time is spent here. I'm a numbers guy. It's going to be pretty clear and cut. I'm experienced in budgets and management of profitability. And I think, again, if we reduce the cost of government in the city of Fergus Falls, it'll be much easier for us as a council with the new write-in candidates to attract and keep new business.
Thank you. Mr. Roofer, you've been outspoken in favor of recreational and tourism projects such as the Glacial Edge Trail, bicycling lanes downtown, and others, some of which we've touched on tonight. I think it's fair to say these projects may be what you're best known for in the last years on the council. Your opponent, however, like many of the new opponents this year, is a businessman and entrepreneur. So what projects would you point to in your history to show that you're equally committed to the business culture of Fergus Falls?
Well, RC, I'm glad you asked. I, again, am a proud supporter of Greater Fergus Falls. Greater Fergus Falls was initiated during my term, and that's their job. Their job is business development, and they do a great job of it, and they're going to continue to keep doing a great job of it. We've done things such as the city has helped to bring Otter Cove to Fergus Falls. Otter Cove brings in visitors from 15 different zip codes to come here and spend their money. We've filled the Target building, we've filled the Shopco building, and due to the professionalism and confidentiality of the team at Greater Fergus Falls, all I can guess is that there are plans underway for the rest of them. We don't need to worry about that. We've made investments in the city to save money too. We're going to save $560,000 by refinancing our city bonds. We outsourced some departments in the city, and that saves us $56,000 a year. We've saved on personnel costs by restructuring and some early retirements. We're increasing our street maintenance fund by 20%. In the past 2 years, we're being proactive versus reactive on that maintenance. And those things all benefit our local businesses. Local sales tax revenue was $1.26 million when I took office. It's risen to $1.33 million in 2019, and it's on track to exceed, to keep growing despite the COVID pandemic. Job market has grown 2.6% in the past year, and we're forecasting a growth rate of 34.5% in the next 10 years. So it's a very business-friendly climate already. I don't think it needs to be changed. And like I said, though, if it does need to be changed, let me know. We'll change it.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, candidates. You'll now have 3 minutes each for closing statements, and following our order, Mr. Roofer, you'll go first.
Thank you very much. Well, again, I appreciate the opportunity to connect with the voters. Some folks have told me that they don't really want someone showing up at their house during a pandemic, so I will stand my distance and do my best to respect everyone's wishes. But to sum up where we're at right now, like Wayne Gretzky is famous for saying, we don't skate to where the puck is. We're skating to where the puck's going to be. And that's what this council's doing. We're thinking ahead. With the downtown riverfront project, if it wasn't for the pandemic, they would have been out there digging today. I mean, it's ready to go. We've impressed the bonding committees and the legislature, and that business, I mean, we're gonna revitalize the downtown. We're gonna bring in new restaurants. We're gonna bring in new local shopping opportunities. We're gonna have things to do downtown. We'll work with the Center for the Arts, give people a reason to come downtown, to build community, to bring their families, and give people from out of town reasons to come here and spend money. You mentioned the trails. I mean, we'll be perfectly situated to have people riding our trails through our city. So my plan for the future is to continue to work with our local experts and our business owners and developers to keep growing our city. Get on the bus. Let's go. Let's stop saying no, and let's start looking for responsible ways to make it work. I have to tell a story that I had a conversation the other day with someone who's been an absolute fixture in the construction industry in Fergus Falls for decades. And this person came up to me while I was out putting up a yard sign. Maybe you've seen them. But he came up to me and said, "Tom, I don't live in the city. I can't vote for you, but I just want to tell you that I really think you guys are doing a good job." And what this gentleman said to me was that he's seen more forward movement in Fergus Falls in the last 2 years than he had in the previous 20 before that. And this guy's been there, done there, got the T-shirt. So I go downtown, I talk to business owners that compliment the mayor, the council, city staff. They say, "You guys have got one of the best, most productive councils we've seen in a long time." And I don't mean that to disparage past councils. I'm just repeating what they've said to me. So with the rest of my time, I would actually, I'd like to make a request. But I have to also mention too that as far as I feel about the current council, folks, the current council ain't broke, don't need fixing. I think, the council that we have right now has the tools. We have the ability to have respectful political debate, of which I think the big guys could probably take a lesson from the Fergus Falls City Council. But I just want to make a request of you watching and listening at home. Come November 4th, we're still going to be a community. We're still going to be friends. We're still going to be neighbors. So take a step back and think before you post that comment or before you lash out. Remember that there's a person on the other end. Perhaps the greatest thing about our country is the freedom to have our own views and share them. Please, let's all try to make politics civil again. Thank you, and please honor me with your vote on November 3rd.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Layton, you have 3 minutes for your closing statements.
I too want to thank everyone who's worked hard to organize this event, and to all those who are watching and will vote for their best candidate. I've studied the last 2 city budgets and feel there needs to be a better transparency available to the public. The budgets are well formatted, but one must dig deep into the budget to find out where the money is being spent, especially for the money being allocated outside the primary function of a city. I will promote zero-based budgeting. Each department will need to justify their spending, starting at the first dollar, and that needs to be presented to the council and the citizens in detail. City of Fergus Falls now spends $3 million on parks and $1 million on the fire department. We spend more money on parks than we do streets. I hear from constituents, when will my road get fixed? These budgets need to be clear and available to the public. This can be better accomplished with the City of Fergus Falls online forum, direct communication from the citizens, and a regular round table coffee talk at the local cafe. With this information available to the public and as a city council, I will work and look forward to your conversation and meeting you at any time. With a new focus in the city's fiscal responsibility, coupled with an aggressive economic business program, which we can do with our write-in votes, Fergus Falls will be in a better position to maintain and attract new business. Thank you, and I look forward to your write-in vote for Ward 2.
Thank you, sir. And once again, thank you, candidates. That brings us to the end of the debate for Fergus Falls Ward 2 City Council, but there's more to come. We'll take a brief 2-minute intermission as the next candidates take the stage, so stay tuned.
Yeah, thank you. Brent doesn't.
Been here for a half hour. Do you mind if we get you up there too?
That's fine.
Okay. Figure it out about here.
I was waiting for him to get his cleaning done.
Oh, okay.
I forgot about the cleaning.
Trying to tell Brent what to do.
What your best is that? Okay, thank you. Welcome back to night 2 of the 2020 Otter Tail County Community Debates. In the last 30 minutes, we witnessed incumbent Tom Rufer and write-in candidate Mark Layton debating in the race for Fergus Falls Ward 2 City Council. Now we are joined by incumbent Brent Thompson, challenger Victoria McWayne Creek, and write-in candidate Al Kramer in the race for Fergus Falls City Council Ward 3. Candidates, as the rules for this debate will remain unchanged, we'll jump right in. Once again, we ask that you please be mindful of the time limits out of courtesy to your fellow candidates and the audience. With that said, our alphabetical seating means that Mr. Kramer, you have the floor and 3 minutes for your opening remarks.
Thank you, RC. And thank you to KBRF, the Journal, and PEG Access for this venue tonight. My name is Al Kramer. I am running as a write-in vote for City Council in Ward 3. I've called Fergus Falls home for most of my life. I was fortunate enough to grow up in this city when the city was prosperous. We had lots of business opportunities and also supportive of progress and full of community pride. I returned to Fergus Falls in 1996 to further my career as a funeral director, also to build a small business, and to raise my children in this community in which I care about. A little bit about myself. I'm a Fergus Falls graduate of 1983. I know that sounds like a long time ago for most of you. And I'm also a graduate of the Fergus Falls Community College. I have a Bachelor of Science degree from the Mortuary Science Unit at the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities campus. And I am a small business owner. And that business is a small granite and a bronze company. I'm a member of the Fergus Falls Noon Kiwanis and previous memberships of the Fergus Falls Planning Commission, appointed when Hal Leland was mayor, and continued up until 2019. I'm also was a past member of the Heritage Preservation Committee, past member of the Center for the Arts Board member, and Fergus Falls Lions, and back in the day, JC's here in Fergus Falls back in the 80s. What I want everyone to know is my push for this community is business and industry, support the local businesses that we have. We need to bolster them, put them up, and help whatever we can do to get this business back going in Fergus Falls. I remember when there was many years that when I was young and my brothers were young, we filled all these buildings downtown, and I want to see that again. I talked to some of the business owners in town, and that's what they would like to see too. With that, there again, my name is Al Kramer. I am the 3rd Ward candidate for write-in, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. McWayne Creek, you have 3 minutes for your opening statements.
Thank you, RC, and to our media host. It is my pleasure to be before you asking for your vote for Ward 3 City Council Representative. I believe that we need a Fergus Falls that works for each and every one of us. In fact, a Fergus Falls that works for all. I have been on this side of the county for about 11 years, working as a private citizen, but being a public servant the entire time. I believe that it is essential that we evaluate all aspects of city government in order to make sure that we are doing the best that we can, both fiscally and socially, for everyone. If we are going to have a Fergus Falls that works for all, that means that we have to make sure that folks who come through our community, who choose to live here and or just pass through, feel as though they belong here from the moment they enter. No matter whether you've been here for 7 days or your family has been here for 7 generations, Fergus Falls is a great community, and we want to make sure that it works for each one of us. My partner and I, Sean, have raised 2 children in this area. Both are on their way to being great young adults. Both are in college. I have a degree in instructional design and am working on a doctorate from Concordia University. I have been part of many regional and statewide boards, including the Women's Foundation of Minnesota and the Youth Advisory Council for Workforce Development in Rural Minnesota, SEP. I currently am employed at Minnesota State Community and Technical College and have made many great relationships within our community and intend to continue my work as a community builder and collaborator with the council, the mayor, and city employees. In order to do that, I would like to make sure that I connect with our constituents in the 3rd Ward. Even though that we are in the midst of a pandemic, you can find out more about me by checking out my website, and I just invite you to visit victoriaforfergusfalls.com.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson?
Okay, these things are usually not that easy for me, so I've pretty much written down my opening and closing statements. I've called Fergus Falls home since meeting my wife in 2002. I've enjoyed representing you for the last 4 years, and I would be honored to continue that endeavor. I believe a councilman has a responsibility to make your voices heard. I put out a survey after I was elected 4 years ago, and I had over 500 responses. I have used the results of that survey as a basis, along with emails and calls I have received over the years, and even to this day, to guide me in my decision process. I've tried to stay true to the wishes of the majority that I represent. I entered into this position a little naive on how local government worked, with more still to learn, but the experience that I have attained in these past 4 years gives me what I need to move forward as your voice. The concerns I've heard these past few years focus mainly on road conditions, filling our vacant stores, creating an atmosphere that will retain young families and make Fergus Falls attractive for additional young families to move here. And most of all, new businesses and industry with good paying wages and benefits, all while being fiscally responsible. These are the goals I look forward to hopefully addressing, given the opportunity to represent you for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, candidates. As before, we will rotate after each question. So our first question begins with Ms. McWayne Creek. The Westridge Mall on the city's west side was once a bustling retail hub for the region. Woolworths, JCPenney's, and Herberger's were but a few of the names that have come and gone. Today, the face of retail is changing, and our mall has faced hardships adapting. Of course, the building is not a property of the city, but the question remains, what role do you see big retail playing in the future of Fergus Falls? And if it has a future, how would you entice these businesses and help to ensure their successes? If big retail doesn't have a future, in your opinion, what economic alternatives would you pursue instead? Ms. McWayne Creek, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. For me, it becomes quite clear that big retail is not going to save Fergus Falls. We will need to reevaluate how we choose to encourage and support small businesses so that they can not only begin but sustain themselves and our economy, employing our youth and our career professionals. In order to do that, we have to take a hard look at Greater Fergus Falls and the work that they do, which is excellent, and how do we support that work? How do we bring in more wraparound services for those who want to start businesses, and also encourage folks to expand the businesses that are being successful. As a brand-new entrepreneur in our community, it has become quite clear that part of the issues for our small businesses is to make sure that we are able to market ourselves, to invite folks in, and to have opportunities to share what it is that we do. One of the things that I recall from New York Mills is the Civic and Commerce committee that would host regularly the small businesses in their community so that folks could come in and know what's happening and who's new. We do a great job with posting and sharing those new businesses that come to Fergus Falls. We have to do more to get folks into those businesses and to start new ones.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson, your
Can you
thoughts?
repeat that for me again?
Certainly. So the last part of the question is that, do you think that big retail has a future? And if so, what future does it have in Fergus Falls? If not, what economic alternatives would you pursue instead?
Well, I believe that we have to have a mix of both. We can't just have small business, and now small business is the backbone of this country. But the point we got is, part of the reason why a lot of the big businesses have left is you have to deal with spending habits. A lot of people, I can understand the occasional running to Fargo and everything else like that, but people have to push themselves to try to make sure they buy local. And until we can try to change some of that mindset, some of the big businesses are going to be harder to get in. Now, the smaller businesses, I mean, if we can get them started, get them in here, hopefully we have a base for them that they're going to do well, and support them with any way that we can, then hopefully with that, and then hopefully being able to retain some of our younger families who want to be able to spend their money here and everything else. I mean, I ran across a young lady, I talked to her for 45 minutes, and she had an opportunity between staying in Fergus Falls and making $10 an hour less and moving out to Wapaton where she could make an additional $10 an hour. But she chose to come here, and we want to do things like that in order to do, like with the Aquatic Center and some of the other things, to bring some of these younger families into town. Hopefully we can get the spending habits changed to the people in town. Then maybe we have to have a balance of both. We're not going to live off with just the small businesses, and we're not going to live off the big box. But in order to compete with Fargo and Alexandria and everything else like that, we have to have a good mix of both.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Krameyer, your thoughts?
Well, I am a very strong push to support, of course, the local businesses that we have and industries. There are some wonderful, wonderful companies here in this town. Also, what we need to do is foster these new businesses, new industry, to get our tax base built up once again. With these larger businesses that we can try to go after, and I know there is a way we can do this, and to get that larger business in first, other things will come. With getting the people here with a good paying job, benefits, and when I'm talking jobs, I mean 50 and more for a business. Then you're going to start to see some retailers taking some interest. Okay, let's move to Fergus. Let's look at this. And we're going to go out and solicit that, and not 25 miles away, not 50 miles away. We're going to look. We're going to probably go out 500 miles away and try to bring these businesses in. I don't, the second part of that question, as far as what would we do, as far as smaller businesses and companies, I see that we need to set up some type of an incubator for these small businesses that can share resources so they can grow, so they don't have to put out such a cash outlay to get started. Thank you.
Thank you. Retail may be evolving, but industry in Fergus Falls has been strong despite workforce shortages. Industry is a major component of the city's economic health, and it's perhaps most represented in Ward 3. If elected, how would you work with these companies to draw in new employees and come up with innovative solutions to support their operations and growth? Mr. Thompson, we'll start with you.
Well, the big thing is part of the problem with some of the people coming in is, what gets me is I see that the rent in this town is almost getting close to be as bad as the metro, the cost of living and everything else. So the point is biggest thing is years ago, we had opportunities, I believe, with Bobcat and IBM, or one of the ones that are over in Wapaton, I forget what the name of them are. We can't afford to turn away businesses like that in the future. We need to do whatever we can to attract them here. And then the problem we're having right now is with the workforce. And we have to work with what we can in order to try to, make it a little bit more economical to get, because they're going other places. So, I mean, as far as, housing, we need to work with that because we have a shortage on that. And, just the basic things that they're needing, because a lot of them, they're not having it here and they're going other places. And we need to get the workforce because otherwise we cannot support what the businesses, the larger businesses in this town need. So, I don't know if that answers it, but.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Kramer, your response?
I'd like to hear the question one more time, please. RC.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
So the question is about industry in Fergus Falls, and that it's been strong in the town despite some workforce shortages, but it's a major component of the city's economic health. If elected, how would you work with these industrial companies to draw in new employees and come up with innovative solutions to support their operations and growth?
Well, I think we have to know what that company is going to be. Are people going to want to work there? I do not believe there's a housing shortage. I believe with business and industry, and there's a quality job, these people are going to come. They're going to be able to afford a house, a decent apartment. So I don't think that, housing is an issue. I think with business and industry is pretty much the great equalizer, in my opinion. With that brings many opportunities for growth, not only for individuals, but company growth, community growth, and with that comes, once again, community pride, which I feel that we're hurting a little bit on that, because in the last 4 years, we've lost a lot of businesses in this city. And I know that there's some word out that the Chamber of Commerce had. There was many new businesses, but I think that list was then removed. So I don't know how many exactly there were, but I know there was some debate on that number. But I would like to bolster the business and industry format to bring those larger companies here.
Thank you. Ms. McWayne Creek, your response?
One more time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Industry is perhaps most represented in Ward 3. So if elected, how would you work with industrial companies to draw in new employees and come up with innovative solutions to support their operations and growth?
So the phrase that keeps coming to my mind as I think about this is that there's no need to fight what is. We just need to figure out what can be. And part of our issue, I believe, in Fergus Falls does reside in affordable, high-quality housing. It also is influenced by quality childcare and by good quality, public transportation. Being able to provide these types of options that folks want to have and need to have in order to be part of our workforce is going to take the city looking at things a little differently than maybe we have in the past. What might we need to do in order to support families and also people who are older in life and still want to contribute to our workforce? We need to be able to work our entire lives if necessary, and not everyone in our community can do that because we don't have high-quality childcare that is available to everyone, nor do we have transportation that folks can rely on, publicly supported. And I think that's how I feel about that.
Okay, thank you very much. This past year has presented challenges, some from without and some from within. But this country and this city are in the habit of overcoming challenges. With the exception of the COVID pandemic, no topic has captured more conversation than matters of equality, ethical treatment, and strengthening our respect for all people, regardless of background. Fergus Falls has seen champions that have worked to bridge these gaps, but there's still work to do. So the question is this: what steps would you take, if elected, to make this city a more welcoming place for all? Mr. Kramer, we'll start with you.
Well, I think we have to understand and relate to people who come to our city. Every day at work, I'm faced with an issue at a very difficult time in someone's life. Try to make that better and to move on. I feel that we need to be accepting of others. We need to be respectful of others and be welcoming of others into our community. I also feel with that the great equalizer, in my opinion, is business. And with that, because you have an option to elevate yourself with a higher paycheck, you can do more things. With that, then, would come the ability to do some of these recreational things. You'll have money to spend at the arts. I am a supporter of the arts here in this town, and it was always been a very big part of Fergus Falls, and my family has been very involved with it. So I think when we have all these different things to offer, people want to come here. We are in the heart of these lakes. Why can't we get the people here? I believe it was probably 16 years ago in that neighborhood, Otter Tail County was listed as number 10 in the nation for a second home for people. So Otter Tail County has a lot of second homes in this community. We need to figure out how to get them into Fergus Falls and spend their money, enjoy their time, give them something to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. McQueen Creek, your thoughts?
Please repeat the question.
Absolutely. Ultimately, the question is this. What steps would you take, if elected, to make this city a more welcoming place for all?
So I will share a little of my experience. In 2018, I wrote a letter to the editor about moving to Fergus Falls and then deciding to leave Fergus Falls to live in Underwood because we did not feel welcome here. And in making that decision, what we considered to be most important was the ability to raise our family in a place that felt like we could be and just live. And part of what I have been doing as a private citizen is working within the community of Fergus Falls to raise awareness and also provide people with skills to ensure that people not only feel welcome to show up and be here, but to show up and be here as who they are, to encourage full participation, which is a step beyond equity and inclusion. It means that you can show up, contribute what you have, and then also receive what is offered from the community, because we've decided to create a new community because we're all here together. Whenever someone leaves, our community needs to renegotiate a contract, and when someone moves in, we must renegotiate the contract so that we have a Fergus Falls that works for all.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson, your thoughts?
Well, this is the one I don't know exactly how to answer it. All I can do is tell you a little bit about me. I was a Navy brat, moved up and down the West Coast. Lived in San Francisco for 3 years, one of probably the most diverse cities in the country. And I went to junior high there, and I went to North Chicago High School, right around the Navy base down there. And people, to me, this is all education, okay? I mean, and there's laws out there to protect people against, you know, the people who just don't care, all right? And like I said, I lived in North Chicago. Half my friends were African-American. I went to school with Filipinos. I went to school with Asians and everything else. To me, I don't judge you on your skin color. I judge you on the character of who you are. And you can't get everybody to think that way. And most of it has to do with ignorance. And there's very few far of the people that are ignorant. And what we literally need to do is do some kind of a campaign or whatever in the city of Fergus Falls to basically put it out there, you know. And to me, it's just as simple as that. You know, we have to basically change people's perspective on things. You have to learn to treat other people with respect, even if you don't like them or whatever. But then when it comes to being turned away from a store, not getting a rent or whatever, there's laws in there. And I guarantee you that those laws will be enforced by our police department, because I don't feel that Kyle Bergman would allow anything such as that. So pretty much I feel education is what it's going to take. And the ones that you can educate, you're going to have to deal with them. And they're going to have to be held accountable for their actions. Thank you.
May I?
Absolutely.
One of the things that I have done is I've reached out to Kyle Bergeron, and we've had conversations about how the police department is weaponized against people of color in our community. It has occurred when we moved here in 2009, and it occurred this summer, which is what spurred me to actually file to run. Is we need to have the conversations and build our ability and our skill set to sit with the discomfort that comes with diversity.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson, any other comment?
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
For our next question, Fergus Falls was built on the Otter Tail River, and its prominence in this city's early history can't be overstated. Today, however, the river is in some ways an afterthought, hidden behind rows of trees and underdeveloped. What purpose does the river serve today, for example, for recreation, industry, or tourism? And what steps would you like to take to develop in that direction? And Ms. McWayne Creek, we'll begin with you.
I am not an expert at community development. I rely on experts and their opinions and the data. I believe that we need to have great amenities and recreation opportunities in order to attract people of all ages and stages of life to our community that are affordable and accessible. We ought not need a boat in order to enjoy the river. So whatever it is that we can do together to engage one another with activities and opportunities to enjoy the natural resources that are abundant here, which drew my family here, which I'm sure keeps your families here, is what we need to do.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson?
Repeat that again.
Sure. The question effectively is, what would you like to see done to help develop the river as an asset to this community?
Well, I think a lot of it's already been kind of set in motion. I mean, we've purchased the dairy property, even though I was the one councilman who voted against it. But the point is it's set in motion. We've already got funding for trails to go along there to purchase the property. And like I said, we need to accent on it. Like you said, she may not have a boat to use, but there's nothing says that the city won't put in docks or anything else for people to go fishing or people just to go, nature watching. I think we need to invest in the river. And I think it's just something that we don't have a lot of big lakes around here like Alexandria has, and so we have to focus on our river. And wherever we can put in access for people to be able to use the river, enjoy the river, and, advertise that out there so people say, hey, we can go kayaking, we can go fishing, we can go doing all this stuff on the river, which a lot of the stuff you can't necessarily get the same enjoyment out of doing on a lake. I mean, me and my wife just got into kayaking here this last year, and we took the opportunity for our first shot to go out on the Otter Tail River. And so it's just one of these things we want to push wherever we can because we're acquiring a lot of the property along the river. So I think, with the park systems and everything else that we're looking at putting in there, it's going to end up costing us a little bit of money. But I think in the long run, when people saying, hey, we're going to go over and use the rivers in Otter Tail to go kayaking or go fishing or whatever, it's going to draw people in, and I think we need to highlight the river and put whatever access we can put into it.
Mr. Kramer?
Thank you. Regarding the river, I wish I had a crystal ball on that one because with legislation and government the way it is, our river could become a trickle. If some of these dams are removed, things of that nature. I know that there's people that actually, my brother was one of them, who worked on a few legislation things with Otter Tail Power to keep these dams. Without those dams, we really don't have a river. And if we do not have that, we kind of lose that whole aspect of our city. So I think we have to do something that we have control of too. Within reason, of course. The river, I tubed that river many times as a kid, had a great time. And others are still doing that today, and they will continue to do that for years, hopefully, if we can keep that river. So we have, let's utilize it, of course. Let's utilize our lakes, and let's try to get the people into the city to use those natural resources that we have. So I think we have to be a little bit careful, because there's things that are beyond our control that we might not be able to get. So we have to be a little careful with that. Thank you.
Sure. Again, our final questions are a little different and will be for each candidate individually. The time limits will remain the same, though there will be no option for rebuttal, and we'll reset the order of questioning. So we'll begin with Mr. Kramer. Mr. Kramer, in your campaign and your time on the Planning Commission, you've been critical of the city's use at times of economic incentives like TIF, tax increment financing. There may be no one-size-fits-all solution, but when do you see tax space aids or other city programs as appropriate incentive to entice business?
I see that very usable in a larger size business or industry, where the city will get the payback on that many times over. I do not see it on apartment buildings right at this time. And I think we've seen what happened the last time we did that at a larger apartment building. My time on the Planning Commission was very valuable to me. It opened my eyes to the things that went on in the city, and in my opinion, the things that should have went on in the city and didn't. So that's one of the spurred me along to do this also, is to run for council. Up until that time of me being on that Planning Commission, it seemed like everything was kind of passed through, rubber stamped. After we got a good discussion group together, there were questions asked. There were topics brought up. There were, why are you doing this? Why are we doing this? It was to the point where we had to meet with the city council because we seemed to be asking too many questions. And I don't know if they didn't like I don't know if they liked it or didn't like it, but we ended up meeting with the city council, the city attorney, and we even had mediators in there from outside the city. So that tells me that we need to dig deeper and find out, how come these questions, they didn't want these questions asked? And that's really what I want to look at, is kind of peel up that onion a little bit and see what's in there. Because I think there's things that we could really do for this city to help it out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. McWayne Creek, as you mentioned, in 2018, you wrote a letter to the editor, which sparked a number of community conversations at the local college, city hall, and beyond. And in it, you described, as you said, moving back to Fergus Falls 1 year earlier and the challenges that you had faced since, closing your letter by saying the city was, quote, a very hard place to live and work. The question is not intended as a critique of that statement or that article, but in the 2 years since, you've opted to run for political office in the same community. What has caused you to stay in Fergus Falls, and can a city council member make a difference?
So I am here because the things that everybody else is living in Fergus Falls. It's a small community. I can know who my neighbors are. I can enjoy some of the natural resources that are just easily at my disposal. I have a professional career that allows me to enjoy a certain quality of life, and I appreciate all of that. Does not mean that the challenges of being a black woman in this community have gone away. But what I have done is leaned into that and worked with the mayor, with the college, and the greater community in order to expand the conversation and enable each and every one of us who wishes to build an even more inclusive community, that we are able to do so. I have been part of the founding of the Fergus Falls Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Community of Practice, which resulted in the Martin Luther King Jr. Day Rural Racial Equity Summit, where we had almost 200 people show up because this is important to us. In order for us to have a community that thrives, we need to be able to appreciate and embrace diversity, inclusion, and particularly diversity of thought and ideology. And I think that is why I'm here, because I am a builder, a connector, and I can do that on the council. And I believe that as a council member, I can be effective.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson, you've had the privilege of serving on the council for the last 4 years, but they say that comfort breeds complacency. So what would you say to voters to demonstrate that your candidacy is about more than maintaining your status quo?
Well, My status quo pretty much remains the same. Pretty much I've always went on after the whole ice arena debacle, where everybody voted it down, and then I get a lot of bitter feelings from people about that. And I pretty much run on the platform that I go with what the majority wants. And like I said, I put out a survey, and I got pretty much the figures that I want. And every once in a while, even like when we went for additional funding for the RTC to tear more of it down, I went door to door. I picked like 6, 7 streets. I went out and door to door and I asked the questions. And I pretty much started getting the same answers. So when it comes to the big questions like this, I go out of my way to make sure that the people out there know that I'm representing them. And that they're not just saying, no, we want this, and then another person goes ahead and does this. You know, there's been a lot of things said about the council where they do what they want to do and everything else, and it's like, sometimes you have to go a certain way. And this is the reason why I've put out there that I listen to what the people in my ward have to say, and I let the chips fall where they may. You know, that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to represent them, and there's no use voting me into an office if I'm not going to represent what you have to say. And I think that's the thing that I went with 4 years ago, and I think it's been pretty positive this year. So whatever works, I stay with it.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, candidates. You'll now have 3 minutes each for closing statements, and following our order, Ms. McQueen Creek will go first. You have 3 minutes.
I want to, again, thank you, RC, for moderating, and the media partners for hosting this event so that our constituents in our community can know who we are and what we stand for and what our dreams and hopes are for the Fergus Falls community. For me, it is quite simple. I want to make a difference. I believe that I can make a difference, and I believe that I have already made a difference. I've shown up. I continue to show up on behalf of not just myself, but of others. I do choose to listen closely so that I can understand folks, especially when it is difficult and I don't necessarily agree with what they are saying. I believe that as a representative on the City Council, it is my obligation not only to ensure that the majority is heard, but also to preserve the rights of the minority so that everyone has an opportunity to have an excellent experience in our community, not just some of us. Other than that, I am here to serve. It is my calling. It is what I do. And I would appreciate your vote on November 3rd to represent Ward 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, well, I'm going to be ending this on a negative note. A lot of people have, and I have to read this because I have it written down. A lot of people have asked why I withdrew from the Bates. Well, my answer is I do better door to door. I do better face to face than I do in a setting like this. I'm able to open a dialogue with each and every person in my ward, and that's always worked for me, and that's what I do. Until Mr. Kramer became my write-in candidate against me. Basically, Mr. Kramer showed up and then things changed. Thanks to him, thanks to him that I am here tonight. It started when talking to people about Mr. Kramer's conspiracy theories and backdoor dealings with the City Council, all revolving around the Herzog/Unique Opportunities buildings down on Tower Road. But what he fails to tell everybody is I was not on the council when the property was purchased. I was not on the council when the property was rezoned. And I was not on the council when the TIF was approved by the council. He also fails to inform you that he was on the Planning Commission on March 28, 2016, when rezoning was approved to be moved forward to the City Council for approval, knowing the TIF funding was needed for development. And after all the problems with the project, he fails to tell people I was on the council when me and another council member voted not to approve the final plat, which basically ended up stopping any future buildings from being built. And with that said, myself and another councilman were the only ones who voted against the TIF that was given for the final building. But that wasn't what brought me here tonight. It was when I showed up at a house campaigning again, and he was shocked to see me. Because on September 19th, he was told by Mr. Kramer that I had dropped out of the race, and that's why he was running a write-in campaign. Now, talk about backdoor dealings. We don't need that on the council, and I thank you and would appreciate your vote on November 3rd.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Mr. Kramer, you have 3 minutes.
Wow, I didn't expect that. I guess that's one thing, the people who know me in this community and have known me my whole life, basically, since living here since '67, know that that's probably not true. Just due to the fact that I would never say that you would be dropping out of a campaign. I know that you weren't going to be in the debate. I don't know what your reason was. I did say to somebody that, yep, Brent is not going to be in the debate. I wish he was. So I'm glad you're here tonight to voice these opinions. But for what you're talking about, I don't see where it's coming from. And my closing arguments shouldn't have to be a rebuttal to him. You know you're getting under somebody's skin when they attack like that. I don't believe in attacking people. People who know me know that I don't attack people unless I will be attacked. What I want you to remember is I am the 3rd Ward write-in candidate. I am running and aim to represent the values, the interests, and the needs of our community. I aim to bring industry to this city and business, and also support our local businesses. I want to reestablish our tax base, rebuild our infrastructure, and I aim to create Fergus Falls that is thriving business and opportunities for growth and renewed community pride. I am shocked by what was said just previous to me speaking. I think Fergus Falls does not need that, and I'm really, really in disbelief that those comments were made tonight. I'm sorry for Fergus Falls on that comment. I apologize for that comment that was made. I just am shocked by this. And I hope that this shows you that what I'm doing is bothering some people. I am not creating conspiracy theories. I am not taking signs, which I was accused at too. And I don't think I would take somebody's sign. I wanted to go door to door. I talked to people, and they told me what they want. They want a tax base. They want infrastructure. They want their streets back. They want business and industry, because what will come with that are all these other nice things. We need to end this on a positive note and move forward so that we can grow, we can be together. I'm appalled by that comment. Fergus Falls, I wish you all the best. We are going to do well in this city, and I don't know how to react to that last comment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, candidates, once again. That brings us to the conclusion of the debate for Fergus Falls Ward 3 City Council, but the mayor's race is yet to come. We'll take a brief 3-minute intermission as the next candidates take the stage, so stay tuned. Yeah. Do you want to count from 10 to 5 just so I know?
Yeah, I didn't know when he was going to play last.
Okay. Because I've never been quite certain, is this on or are you about to play? Okay.
I know the order of events. So.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. Sure. Is that about right? Yeah. And welcome back to the final event in Night 2 of the 2020 Otter Tail County Community Debates. In the last hour, we've heard from candidates for Fergus Falls Ward 2 and Ward 3 City Council seats. But this next race represents the highest elected office in the city, the race for Mayor of Fergus Falls. We welcome to the stage incumbent Ben Shire, challenger John Strauch, and write-in candidate Mike Mortensen. Candidates, as the rules for this debate, again, remain unchanged, we'll jump right in. Please be mindful of the time limits out of courtesy to your fellow candidates and the audience. With that said, our alphabetical seating means that Mr. Mortensen, you have the floor, and 3 minutes on the clock for your opening statements.
I want to thank you, RC, and I want to thank Peg Access and Daily Journal and everyone that's involved here tonight. Like I said, I'm Mike Mortensen. I'm the write-in candidate. I guess this is where I'd like to say circle in the oval and write in the name after that on that end. I want to talk to my two opponents here tonight, and I want to say to Ben, I want to thank you for your service to the city. I want to thank you for our friendship over the last 35 years. And nothing with this campaign has to do with you and I. It has to do with the betterment of the city economically is why I'm running. John, I want to tell you that over the last weeks that I've seen you in campaigning, I've gained a lot of respect for who you are. And I think you're a great asset to the city. And I don't want you to forget that in my eyes, okay? Thank you. To let everybody know, my roots run deep here. My grandfather and them came in 1870, and I've lived here my whole life. I graduated high school here in 1989, and after that I went on to serve my country in the United States Marine Corps, ultimately ending up in Mogadishu, Somalia before I was discharged. That whole time when I was in the service and I was away from Fergus Falls, all I could think about is how much I love this city, how much I wanted to come home, how much I wanted to be somewhere safe with people that I knew. And that has kind of driven me to live here the rest of my life. After I got back, I went on and earned my Doctor of Chiropractic degree, and I have the distinct honor to serve our nation 3 days a week up at the Fargo VA Hospital, where I take care of America's heroes, whether they're from Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. I've also have the distinct honor to own the only billboard company here in town, and I've done that for over a decade, where I've served the community well with every business, and I know just about every business owner in this community, where I've been able to help them expand, to help them grow, to help them become what they need to be in this city. So I have a very close connection to every business that is here. I want to thank those businesses that over the last few weeks have pushed, they've been the wind at my back. They said, Mike, we need you to do this. We need you to be the write-in candidate for the businesses in the city, and that's why I'm running as a write-in candidate. I also want to thank all my supporters that have been handing out flyers, making phone calls, and doing things of the such. You guys are amazing to me. I can never repay you for the things you've done and to the kind words that you've given me. So again, I'm Mike Mortensen. I love this city. I'll live here forever, and I'm your write-in candidate.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Shire, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, RC. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for being here. Thanks to the Journal, Leighton Broadcasting, Peg Access. Thanks for those watching at home, listening on the radio. My name is Ben Shire. I'm the mayor of Fergus Falls. It's been the honor of a lifetime to serve as mayor of a community that I love. I'm proud of the work that we've done over the past 4 years. We're moving forward as a community, and I'm committed to continuing that progress. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a coach. I'm an elder at the Federated Church. I volunteer with numerous community organizations, and I was first elected to the City Council here in Fergus Falls in 2004. My wife Tessa and I, along with our 5 children, are dedicated to this community. We have demonstrated that commitment by investing ourselves in a family business that has employed and provided paychecks for more than 100 individuals in this community over the past 5 years. I have a proven track record of leadership for this community. I have 12 years of demonstrated support for our police officers and firefighters. I have 12 years of building partnerships with the nonprofit, the business, and faith communities. And those efforts have paid off. In a time when there's so much chaos and turmoil in the world, ask yourself, is there any place in the world that you would rather live than Fergus Falls? But I also recognize we have challenges. And I'm proud of the way that as a community we've responded to those challenges. In the face of a national retail crisis, I had the vision for and built the partnerships to create Greater Fergus Falls, an economic development model that built public-private partnerships that leverage the common sense of the business community reduced bureaucracy, and have proven results. In the past year, we've filled 2 of our big box vacancies. And one of those has led to a $5+ million proposed development on the former Shopko site that is scheduled to break ground next spring. And since the day that Target closed its doors, Greater Fergus Falls has helped more than 26 businesses open their doors. We're going to continue that momentum. But to me, most importantly, at a time in our country when we are so extremely divided, I have demonstrated that we can make progress through hard work, finding compromise, and bringing people together. We owe that to our children, and we owe that to each other. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Strauch, you have 3 minutes.
I want to thank everybody who put this together, also all the citizens who are watching at home who care about our fine city. Tonight, I hope to share some of the ideas I would bring to the office of mayor. I was born and raised in Fergus Falls, went through high school, and shortly after, moved to Colorado, where I learned the trade of tiling and flooring from my uncle. I also started a painting company in Aspen, Colorado for a short time, then came back to Fergus Falls in 1991, where I've raised my 2 daughters. I've been self-employed businessman in the community for over 25 years. I enjoy helping the elderly, baking apple pies for them, also riding motorcycle with my wife, and enjoying time with family. I've been to many council meetings, ran for council and mayor, and have kept up on the issues of the city over the years, for the last 15 to 20 years. I've seen a lot of changes in my life of living here, a lot of good changes, but also a lot of sad things. Some of the things that has really come to my attention is how we spend the city budget. I've seen consultant fees increase to the point of millions of dollars. And I see we have very capable people in our city, in our staff, that is able to make decisions for our city. And it's really been frustrated over the years that we hire out people from other cities, Minneapolis, St. Cloud, Fargo, to tell us how to do our city, when we have very capable people here right in our staff and people that work for our city. So that has been one of the big issues that I'm trying to address. Also, our residential streets have been neglected for many years. We know that there's only a small amount of money that can be used for roads, but we've seen to fix ones that aren't necessarily as bad as others. And the ones that are really bad seem to get neglected. There's places where sidewalks are 50, 60 years old. Sure, we fixed some with the ends for blind people and that, but there's so much more we can do. So where we spend our money is very critical. So I would like to see some changes in our community and in our town. So that is why I decided to run this time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, candidates. We'll rotate the order again after each question, so our first question begins with Mr. Shire. First question is short, but vital. In your opinion, what is the city's greatest challenge, and how would you address it? Mr. Shire, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mentioned it in my opening. The city's greatest challenge, I believe, is in a changing retail environment, in a changing global economy, staying relevant and supporting our business community. And I mentioned Greater Fergus Falls, and I'll mention Greater Fergus Falls a lot tonight, but we have to maintain a strong business community. And we have, when I talk to Otter Tail Power executives who have who work in communities across Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota, they tell us that after establishing Greater Fergus Falls, we have the strongest economic development model of any community our size in a 3-state area. And so we've got to support our business community, and we have supported our business community, and we've got a strong economy through the partnerships that we've built. And again, when I took office, our economic development was one person inside City Hall. We brought that outside of City Hall and broadened our relationship and partnership with the community, the business community across, and has shown results. Unemployment in Fergus Falls has declined over my time in office. Sales tax increases have been up 5.8%. When I took office, there was 21 vacant storefronts downtown. Today, there are 6, and soon to be 4. And 26 new businesses have started in Fergus Falls since the creation of Greater Fergus Falls. So I'm proud of what we've done to support our business community, but the biggest challenge we have in this community is making sure that in these changing global economic times and Amazon, that we maintain and support our businesses.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Strauch, you have 2 minutes.
Well, I guess I would have to say one of the biggest things is the Regional Treatment Center. And of course, jobs that are good paying. The state gave us the Regional Treatment Center many, many years ago. I was on the committee that was brought there to determine what could be used as a reusable for the building. That was way back when Russ Anderson was mayor. Since then, I have followed up on many, many meetings and opportunities to discuss what to do with that. Over the years, the council has made bad decisions as far as I'm concerned, and others in our community, as to how that's been done. We have lost out on many opportunities to bring revenue in. The money that the state gave us was used for things other than to keep the building intact, so now there's issues there. I believe we could have done a lot of things differently there. We also have an opportunity to possibly get something going there with a Veterans Rehabilitation Center. I would hate to see that building get tore down. It can be used for Summerfest, weddings, so many opportunities, and also business. Thank you.
Could I just respond?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate John's comments. I just want to make it clear, when I took office, there was a dysfunctional relationship between the city, State Historical Preservation Office, that would not allow anything to get done on that campus. I built relationships with many trips to St. Paul between State Historic Preservation Office, legislators from both parties in the legislature, and the city that was able to bring in $3.49 million in bonding on that property to remove the least historic properties and get it in a place that we're able to redevelop it. So, just
Thank you,
wanted
sir.
to clear
Mr.
that.
Strauch?
Can I have a rebuttal?
Yep.
Many years ago, I don't know if you were on the council, Ben, or not, but the owner of Midweek was responsible to get a Chinese school here. He was flown over by Ottawa Power for many meetings with the Chinese. At that time, he talked to the council and would not allow a movie to be produced there or anything other than what he determined. We lost opportunities.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mortensen, your comments. You have 2 minutes.
Well, I tell you, RC, I appreciate it a lot. I'm kind of living in an alternative reality here tonight with individuals talking on the council, the mayor, and some of the council members that our economic vitality is just great. And I'm not going to be a downer here. I've lived here my whole life, and I think otherwise. I think we have many, many open buildings in this city. You can go by Sunmart, you can go by Kmart, you can go by Heedall's, you can go by the other Mexican restaurant, the other truck area that's there, the Shopko recently. We have a lot of buildings that need to be filled. And one of the reasons, and probably the main reason that I'm here on the council, is to fill those buildings. And I have a plan to do that. It may be with Greater Fergus Falls. It may be with a different type of economic type of setup. But I am here because those buildings need to be filled, and that is the greatest challenge. When you go door to door and you hear people say, can we get something back? Can we at least get something back? We're one of the only cities around this area that lost a Target. We've lost all of these things. And I tell you, it's personal to me to do this, to bring it back. I don't need to sit here and just become the mayor to be the mayor. I am here to bring business back to the city, and we're going to do everything that we can to get that accomplished. If that's not your greatest challenge, and it's not on the minds of everybody, you're missing the boat here.
Could I make a comment,
sir.
Arce? Yeah. I just want to, I don't want us to be going off of fear. I want facts. And if you look at the facts, 2 of the vacancies that Mike mentioned, we have filled. Also, unemployment is down. The number of jobs is up under my leadership. And in 2020, there is going to set an all-time record for new home construction starts on record in Fergus Falls. So to say that the economy is bad is just not true.
Mr. Mortensen, any comment?
Let's go on facts. When you come into town from the west, you go by 4, 5, 6 buildings that are sitting vacant, and they cannot be filled. And that is an issue for our city. That's an issue for companies that want to come here. When they drive in, it's just vacant, and that has to change.
Thank you, sir. The next question is similar in nature to the first question, but it plays a little further in. Economic development has flitted in and out of City Hall over the years, with much of that work now handled, as Mr. Shire mentioned, by Greater Fergus Falls. What role should City Hall play in economic growth and planning, and what work would you do to that end if elected? And Mr. Strauch, we'll begin with you.
Well, thank you. I think Greater Fergus Falls is getting a little more credit than they deserve. Our business people are the ones who create the businesses. There's 5 developers that have bought Shopco and are going to develop that. It had nothing to do with Greater Fergus Falls. They have gotten some small businesses going, but I don't see anything big. I went to the first meeting. I would like to see some businesses like a drone industry or the robotics industry. We have a lot of empty buildings, like Mike said, that could be filled with something like that. And all they need is a building. And we could have a lot of jobs, a lot of opportunities. So I think if we allow the business people to give them breaks, to help them, to give them initiatives, when they fix up the downtown, there's a businessman that has fixed up at least 3 or 4 buildings downtown. He did that on his own. So I think we need to give credit to where it deserves. And so the more we help our businessmen, the more we can see our downtown revitalize and to get to where we want it to be. And also, there again, it's where we spend our money. Our river is a great opportunity, but we have a sewage pipe that goes across the river, and you can't kayak down that river because of that. I have brought that to the attention many times. Nothing seems to be done about it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mortensen.
Economic development is everything to me, and it's everything to this city as well. One of the things that we need to do is we need to make sure, whether it's Greater Fergus Falls or it's another entity, that we set it up with people that are specialists. And what I mean by that, people that know exactly what it is to acquire business and exactly what it is to do those things with these buildings. I'm going to say something that's going to be radically different than what people are used to here. We need an economic development group that can own some of these buildings that are vacant. I'm not talking just the Port Authority, I'm not talking just, a section. They need to own these buildings that are vacant. And then what they need to do when they own these buildings, let's take the Heat Hall building, for example. What they do then is they go out and they get a business to fill that building once they own it. And they can pick and choose who they have. You don't just at the mercy of somebody coming in. Right now, we're at the mercy of whoever owns those buildings. I've tried 2 or 3 times to fill that vacant Heat Hall's building with people that wanted to lease, but the owner will not lease. He just wants to sell. So if we don't control the buildings and control the narrative of what needs to be done in those buildings, we're not going to get anywhere. Then, once that economic group owns that building, they go ahead and pick the company they want to come in, and then they lease to that company. They lease to them. They're their tenant. And so what happens then to that economic development group is they start to grow. They start to get their own money. They start to get one building. Then they grow and they get a second. And then they get a third. And they continue to grow. And as they grow for the whole city, because now we start to control the narrative of who is in these buildings, and we make money off of those buildings. Not as a city, not as an individual 2 or 3 people in this town, but as an economic group. And that's how you'll get it. And I'll talk a little bit more as time goes, how you set up the individuals to do this and accomplish it. And this isn't just my dream. This is being done in other communities around the state. And so.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Shire, you have 2 minutes.
So the question again?
Sure.
What should those cities' role be in economic development?
Yes, and what work would you do to that end?
Yeah, just to make it clear, I know some of the offers that have been made to purchase those buildings, and it's not economically feasible or responsible to suggest that we're going to own those buildings right now. That has to have market solutions to some of these problems. If the city were to take ownership of those buildings, I'm not sure if you're suggesting city ownership, but if the mall, Kmart, and Sunmart, that would increase the property taxes by 20%. And I don't support subsidizing corporate interests that have no vested interest in this community with taxpayer dollars. We don't know that they're going to be here 3 years. I want to invest in our local businesses, the families, the 6 developers that John mentioned who are in on the Shopco site, the $5+ million project. Their kids go to our schools. They go to our churches. They're invested in this community. We need to support them, and that's what we've done through Greater Fergus Falls. And I don't mean to pat myself on the back, but when Target closed, I knew that we needed a new economic development model in this community, and I went out and built it. And it's demonstrated and proven to bring results.
Thank you, sir. Fergus Falls has always leveraged transportation to succeed as a regional hub.
Hey, RC, I think Mike has a...
I'm sorry, Mr. Mortensen, you have a rebuttal.
Can I comment to that?
Let's
I
do that
never,
first.
ever suggested that the city should own these buildings. That would be a catastrophe to do that. But I do say an economic group has to own these buildings, and they have to control the narrative. Because right now, these buildings could sit vacant for 10, 15, 20 years if we don't have the ability to do this. And that's how you generate revenue. You aren't going to have the city buy these buildings. That's the exact inappropriate thing to do. The other thing that we have to be careful with is a mayor that talks against corporations. We need to be connected to these corporations. When you take a CEO of
Apologize, sir, I have to cut you off. Mr. Shire, do you have any response?
Yeah, I'm not sure who's going to buy the buildings. I've seen the offers that have been made on some of these buildings that have been rejected, and they don't make fiscal sense. We've had developers in here who have made offers on some of those buildings, and it doesn't make sense. So to suggest it's a local group, we've had local groups make offers on the mall, and they've been rejected. It's not that simple. We've got to build this from the ground up.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move on to the next question then. Fergus has always leveraged transportation to succeed as a regional hub. The town site was founded on the river and chartered with the arrival of the railroad. The interstate system meant new opportunities and played its part in the city's westward growth. But the new mode of travel is the internet, and Fergus Falls has a limited supply of high-tech businesses. What can the city do to entice programmers, software firms, and cutting-edge industries, or are these the businesses of bigger cities? Mr. Mortensen, you have 2 minutes.
I think it goes back to just what we're talking about. It goes back to an economic development group that control the narrative of what they do. And so what I mean by that is if you have a group of specialist people, when we're looking at buildings and we're looking at industry and we're looking at different things, we don't want an economic group where we just have someone fill a seat, a warm body fill a seat. We need individuals on that economic group, whether it's Greater Fergus Falls or it's something else, that can talk about real estate, someone that's a specialist in zoning and different methods for that. So if we need an internet group to come in, they can get in the right area. We need a specialist that can control buildings and know what buildings mean. So what that is, that's a construction trade type individual. So when you walk into a Heedall's and you're going to purchase that building as an economic group, as an investment for the future, where you could have a tenant in there for 30, 40 years, we have to have a specialist in there that can look at that building and say, this building is perfect for what we need. And then what we need inside of an economic group is you need bankers. And you need bankers of all different sorts. Ones that are specialists in certain type of lending and different things. Ones that are used to internet or type of setups like that. And then the last thing you need, there's 2 more things that are very important. You need to have an individual that is versed in rental real estate. So what that means is there's individuals out there that know how to do contracts, know how to do land acquisition, and they know how to explain these things to companies when they come. So if they're going to have a 30-year lease with you, they lay it out. The last thing we need, this is the most important thing you'll hear me say tonight, an economic group has to have an individual that takes that company's hand and walks them through the city. They need to walk them into Len Taylor's office, April's office, and they need to walk them right here in front of the city council and never let them go until they go through the whole process and they've achieved what they need to achieve. And I think if you put together that type of a group, whether it's through Greater Fergus Falls, which has the capabilities to do that, and you take that approach, I don't care if it's an internet group, I don't care if
Sir,
it's
I have to cut you off again. Mr. Shire?
Yeah, I just want to be clear, and I appreciate Mike's enthusiasm. We're doing all those things and more, and suggesting that we lack the skills or expertise in Greater Fergus Falls and the board member that has the bankers, has the real estate agents, land acquisitions. Annie Decker and Ty Bowman are professionals. The Port Authority, the Planning Commission, Zoning Commission, we have the expertise in this community of volunteers that are providing that expertise. So I think it minimalizes the efforts that have gone into that and what we've been able to develop through Greater Fergus Falls. But I'll just say real quick, in the last 6 months, there's been an initiative for entrepreneurs started through Greater Fergus Falls. 32 individuals in our community have gone through that. Over 20 of them have had started some sort of startup, most of them online, most of them small. Who knows if the next one is a big one? Who knows if the next one's going to fill 2 of those empty box stores? We're providing support for local individuals and their startups.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mortensen?
I don't want anybody here to think that I said something bad about Greater Fergus Falls, because that has not come out of my mouth today. I've talked about economic development that is right for our city. Whether that comes from them or it comes from somewhere else, it just has to be right for our city. I've worked with Greater Fergus Falls since the day they started. They've been on my billboards, and I gave Greater Fergus Falls the biggest push I could last year. I gave them almost $5,000 worth of advertising on my billboards to get them out there, to get them noticed. I want them to succeed.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Shire, any remarks?
No, I don't have any.
We'll move on to Mr. Strauch then for the same question.
I think our city needs to help as much as we can with getting high-speed internet to people. The way things are going now, the future is, like you say, it's moving towards internet. Everything is done online. We can work, there's a lot of people working from home. They need that fast internet. We can check into the 5G, see where that's coming into play. We can also work with our schools, find out where our programmers would come from, how we could help the students to learn how to do the software. And it would show businesses that we have good employment opportunities because we're teaching our young people to do these things and to use the internet. And I think just like online shopping has taken over, and a lot of businesses have hurt from that. We need to look at the future, and the future is the internet, and it is an internet that you can have available to people. So I think that is a very important thing for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Given where we're at with our time right now, we're going to attempt to squeeze one more question in, but we're going to need to adjust the time limit to do that. So the next question, you'll have 1 minute to respond, and the question is this. U.S. history is littered with prominent figures who shaped the nation and whose names we recognize to this day. Fergus Falls, likewise, has celebrated names like Wright, Adams, and Frankberg, to name a selection. What makes a leader, and how would voters of this city recognize a leader in action? Mr. Shire, we'll ask you first. You have 1 minute.
I think the biggest leadership quality that I appreciate is empathy and listening. A leader needs to know his community, his or her community. They need to care about their community, and they need to show that with actions, not words, but actions. I think anyone who looks at my record would know that I've done that through actions. I've been there for people, I've put in the hard hours, and I've brought people together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Strauch, you have 1 minute.
I believe a good leader is a good servant, somebody who's willing to serve. And the mayor position is a part-time position, according to the city charter, which means you have limited hours that you're getting paid for. I've worked with the Fergus for many years, and one of the things Kelly did was put many hours into the mayor position when he was mayor. He did a very good job. He was mayor for many years because of that. So I believe one of the main things for a good leader is to be able to be a servant, to be able to look out for the needs of all the people in your community and all the people in your city. And that sometimes is a tough thing to do, but that's what needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mortensen, you have 1 minute.
Leadership is the ability to recognize what you need to do, no matter if it's popular or not. You look around, you see what needs to be accomplished, and you get it done. Leadership is all about influence. The ability to have people, maybe if they don't want to do something, or they're unsure, or they're afraid, you get them to do it, and you do it in the right way. Leadership was honed in my bones in the city of Mogadishu, and there's times where we had the Humvee sitting there, and I had young Marines that didn't want to go out into the city, but I looked at them, and they looked at me with a sense of confidence, and we did it. I'm not saying this is Mogadishu or the Marine Corps. We're much better than that. But I'm saying leadership is influence to get people to get things done. And that's why I'm sitting in this chair tonight, to lead this city through the economic woes that we have right now and bring us out the other side.
Thank you, gentlemen. For the last time, we'll move on to our final questions. And once again, these questions are a little bit different and will be for each candidate individually. I suspect you all know the drill by now. The time limits will remain the same at 2 minutes, though there will be no option for rebuttal, and we will reset the order of questioning. So, Mr. Mortensen, we'll actually begin with you. Mr. Mortensen, one thing you have in common with your competitors is your background as an entrepreneur. But if I understand correctly, your work, especially with the Veterans Affairs and your chiropractic practice, places you at times outside this community. How can the voters of Fergus Falls be certain you'll be there when the next target closes or when nature itself lashes out? How will you divide your time without compromising your commitment to this city? You have 2 minutes, sir.
So like I've said, my commitment to the veterans that have served our country is immense, and it'll be that way for a long time. But I also have an equal commitment to the businesses that are in this city. These businesses count on me for my billboards and the things that we do on that nature. So one of the things that I've decided, my wife and I talked about this, is I usually build 1 to 2 new billboards a year with our company. And so what we're going to do is we're going to suspend all of our billboard production if I become the mayor. So what that's going to allow me to do is that's going to allow me to have 20 hours of time a week to dedicate to the mayor's position. So every Wednesday, I will have office hours here in the mayor's chambers. I checked with City Hall to see what the last mayors have done. It's been many different things, from a couple hours to 4 hours to actually no hours at all. And so I am dedicating 20 hours of my work week to the city, and I also have multiple vacation hours to use whenever needed through the VA. But I am dedicated to the city, bringing business back in a way that we can compete with Alec, we can compete with Detroit Lakes, and all of those cities. Because here's the thing, RC, that we didn't talk about tonight. People can Google this. If you look at the city of Alexandria from 1990 on, it's went from 10,000 to 14,000 people, and it's climbing. If you look at Detroit Lakes, it went from 8,000 to 12,000. If you look at the city of Perm, it's growing. If you look at the city of Bemidji, it's going from 12 to 15. Do you know what the city of Fergus Falls did? It sat right at 13.5. 13.2, we annexed Woodland Height, we went to 13.8. We're not growing. We're not achieving the business needs that we need to achieve. In order for us to be competitive, this has to happen now.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Shire, like your competitors, you're a businessman in this city. Your establishment, however, has played host to a number of politicians in the last few years, including just this last week. Some in the community have criticized the intermixing of your office and political representation your business affords traveling candidates. How can the voters be certain that you represent all people in this city, regardless of politics? You have 2 minutes, sir.
Yeah, thanks, RC, for the question. First of all, I had no connection with the event that happened at our pizza places last week, but I have a proven track record of working with people of all sides of the political spectrum, including Bud Nornis, Bill Engelbretson, Colin Peterson, and nonpartisan mayors from across the state. That's my job. And let me be really clear. I've taken a lot of questions about my support for Governor Tim Walz. And let me be very clear why I supported Tim Walz, for 2 reasons. First of all, as a local elected official, the 2 most important issues for me are school funding and funding our local cities. He had the best plan for that, and it's proven results. Under his local government aid plan, the city of Fergus Falls has received $126,000 in increased local government aid for us to provide services without raising property taxes in the community. The school has received more than $400,000 each of the last 2 years. But I've also been very clear where I disagree with the governor. I was clear I did not support his mandate to close our businesses. I asked the city council to pass a resolution. I signed it, and we sent it to the governor to give us local control. I do not support the legalization of marijuana, and I want to be perfectly clear because there are people who are spreading false information deliberately. I do not, I have not, and I will not support Fergus Falls becoming a sanctuary city, period.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Strauch, you have,
Could I have
not to the
Oh, that's
individual
right.
questions,
Sorry.
sir, but thank you. Mr. Strauch, you have for years worked as an entrepreneur and tradesman in this city, and certainly you've been involved in local politics as a city, but your political leadership appears limited. What makes you the right candidate for the job? You have 2 minutes, sir.
Well, as a businessman, I have worked in a lot of homes, met a lot of people. I have to run my business accordingly, otherwise I fail. So that takes leadership. I also have seen a lot of things happen in the city, and one of the things I guess would come to mind is the very first time I ran for office, a fellow said, if you don't like something and you want to change it, then run for office. I feel that my position with having run for office, having been to many council meetings, and kept up on all of the issues of our city, gives me that perfect leadership position to do some changes that need to be changed. There is directions Fergus needs to go, and one of the things is wasteful spending. We need to stop that, and that takes a strong leadership, somebody who has the courage to stand up against special interest groups. And I believe that I have the ability to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, candidates. We will now allow each candidate 3 minutes for closing statements. And following our order, Mr. Shire, you will go first.
Thanks, RC, and thanks again to both Mike and John for being here tonight, the Journal, PEG Access, Leighton Broadcasting. I want to address one thing that I've heard from people out there, and I think it's a legitimate question to all of the write-in candidates. People have asked the question, if you're not ready on August 12th, what makes you ready today? And I'll let the voters decide that question, but I want to be clear about my commitment to this community, and that has never wavered. My family has thousands of hours of demonstrated commitment through volunteering, through organizations such as the Center for the Arts, the Salvation Army, the Federated Church, the Community Food Shelf, Meals on Wheels, the Public Library. No one had to beg me, and I showed up on time. Tonight we've heard my opponents talk about what they would do. I want to be clear in telling you what I have done and what I plan on continue doing. Our economy locally is strong under my leadership. When I took office, there were 21 vacant storefronts downtown. Today they are 6, and there will soon be 4. Jobs are up, unemployment is down, and 2020 has seen the highest number of new home construction starts on record in this city. This is happening in the midst of a global pandemic, where businesses around the world are closing. In Fergus Falls, we are opening business. And I'm proud of our response to COVID because of established relationships between city staff, local healthcare providers, and county public health officials. We ensured that we had, and we continue to have, the resources and equipment necessary to respond to whatever situation may come our way. But simultaneously, the city coordinated effort with nonprofit and local churches to ensure that our residents and our businesses had the resources they need to make it through these challenging times. We made sure the food shelf remained open. We supported families and children. And we provided more than $500,000 directly to local businesses. There's no better place to live right here in Fergus Falls. We're blessed to live in a safe community with a strong economy and a beautiful environment. We have strong schools, arts, cultural, and recreational opportunities, and affordable housing. And in a world that is increasingly divided, in Fergus Falls we are friends, we are neighbors, and we are a community. For the past 4 years, I've woken up every morning, put my shoes on, and hit the pavement to work hard to move this community forward by bringing people together. I'm proud of that work. I want to continue that work, and I want to do it together. Tonight I'm asking you for your vote, and I say thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Strauch, you have 3 minutes for your closing remarks.
Again, I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to reach out to the citizens of Fergus Falls and ask for your vote on November 3rd. If you're tired of wasteful spending, as our utility taxes increase every year, our residential streets are falling apart, it's time for the city council to make decisions according to the city charter for the best interest of the whole city. I don't feel that's being done. As mayor, I would like to see that happen. Also, let's help the people that are hurting in our city. Also, the elderly. Let's do things that show our citizens that we care and we appreciate their tax dollars. There's little things we can do that doesn't take a lot of money. Like I said, there's so much money that's going in directions that it could be better spent. Snow ridges in the wintertime is a little issue but it's very important. People come out of their homes, they need to go to work, and there's a big ridge there. We could do something for them by just eliminating that ridge. There's a lot of elderly that live behind the mall in twin homes. There's a double-wide driveway. Turn the blade, no ridge. Little things that would help to show people we appreciate our citizens, and then spend their money wisely. Also, the RTC is something that we really need to address. And as a leader, I would look forward to trying to get a Veterans Rehabilitation Center up there, to try to save that building, to help our veterans. That's something that we could get federal dollars for. That building is what has been a part of Fergus Falls since I was a child and longer. So, in ending, I would like to serve the people of our city and bring a change to what we spend our tax dollars on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mortensen, you have 3 minutes, sir.
RC, I appreciate tonight, I appreciate you for inviting me. You didn't have to invite me as a write-in candidate, I know that, and so it was you that reached out to me to do this, so I appreciate that. PEG Access, Lakes Radio, and the Daily Journal, appreciate you as well. One of the things that just amazed me that I heard here a few minutes ago was our city mayor ask about why I was a write-in candidate and why we virtually, I wasn't on time. This is something that has been hit on me from this city the moment I started this. It's been coming from all avenues. It's been coming from within the city. It's been coming from economic groups. People online saying that I'm not competent enough to meet the deadline to file. How can I be competent enough to be the mayor? I'm not saying Ben just said that, but he kind of said, why are you a write-in? I want to assure the city of Fergus Falls right now that I am as competent as anyone to run this city. I have the leadership skills, I have the ability to work with people, I have the ability to know every business in this town. And what happened, why I'm the write-in candidate, is this city and the business people looked at it and they said, we want a businessman to run this city. We want someone that is good at land acquisition, someone that knows contracts, someone that works with the local businesses every single day to promote them in this city. And that's why I was asked to be the write-in candidate. I didn't take this lightly. I uprooted a lot of my life to do this. So I want everyone to know, I don't need to be the mayor for the title. I don't need to be the mayor to be popular. And I definitely don't need to be the mayor to up my status and work my way up the political ladder. I may not have all the friends in the Twin Cities that other people do, but I've got a lot of friends here in Fergus Falls, and I appreciate every single one of them that has come on Facebook and supported me. I assure you, if you elect me as a write-in candidate for your mayor, I am more than dedicated to this city and more than accomplished to run this city. Thank you, RC.
Thank you, sir. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the conclusion of this evening's debates. A reminder that tonight is the second of 3 events, with the next debate covering candidates for Otter Tail County Commissioner in Districts 1, 3, and 5 on Thursday, October 8th, also at 7 p.m. We hope you'll join us then, and we thank you for being with us tonight. A quick thank you once more to our sponsors, the Fergus Falls Daily Journal, Layton Broadcasting Company, and PEG Access Television. Again, a word from our sponsors, and on their behalf, a reminder that you can subscribe to the Daily Journal, digital and print editions, by visiting their website at www.fergusfallsjournal.com or by stopping into their new office within the historic Carnegie Building at 125 North Union. And check out their app, available on the Google Play Store and the iOS App Store. You can catch this and our upcoming event on Layton Broadcasting's AM 1250 KBRF, or check out their sister stations, Real Rock Z103.3 FM, 96.5 FM KJ Country, and Channel 977 FM. And of course, catch this and more televised coverage of local news on local channels 8 and 18 from PEG Access. Remember, Election Day is Tuesday, November 3rd, and we hope to see you all at the polls. Until next week, thank you and good night.
Quitting my flyer is Tuesday, the 8th.